I have to let you know that we have some cancer concerns with this. I looked over at my wife. She was sitting to my right, and I looked at her, and I could see the fear, and I could see her eyes light up, and I could see kind of like the tears starting to build a little bit. Just hearing the word cancer, right?
For sure.
You know, like when you're on a really high rooftop, you're in a skyscraper, and you kind of look over the edge, and you get that funny feeling in your stomach.
Yes.
As I was sitting there, I had that.
Yeah.
And I instantly had a message from God telling me that do not fear, do not worry, that I have you. And in that same breath, he said, but I want you to know it's serious. And, I think of Psalms, chapter in 23:4 or whatever, where we walk through the valley of death, but we fear no evil, right? God was saying, do not fear that I have you.
Right.
And if you put your trust in me, we're going to get through this together.
That's right.
Yep.
And
That's right. And you're going to see things that you've never seen before.
Experienced before. And
And we're back.
But I feel like you're like staring into my soul and my heart's pounding.
We get hesitant to obey God. We're leading out of vulnerability, leading out of not being perfect.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, God is a God who holds his promise.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, how does the world not know
That's good.
who is Lord?
Yeah.
True.
Transformation.
Okay. Like, this is exposing things in my life and in my heart.
Sure. And you have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah. This is where faith is revealed.
Yeah. We got to go to church.
And we're back. Dear God Ministries with Leah and Josie.
Hello.
Today, we have a special guest, a new friend, Pete. Pete Sauer.
good morning.
Say hi to the listeners.
Hello, everybody out there.
Hello, everyone. So if you are, an active listener, we talked about this man last episode. Not that there was a face to it or a name to it.
We really didn't know who he was at the time that we were sort of talking. I mean, we did. We knew kinda. We didn't know him.
Yeah.
We didn't know if he was going to be a weirdo or not. I'm just kidding. I'm just
We
teasing.
know it's a guy that spends 1,000 miles a week in a car, and he travels a lot, but he's got this message he wants to share, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, we'll chase you down, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we shared last week or the last episode that we literally packed up the car. I don't know if you knew that.
Our whole car was packed up with all of our equipment because I was
listened.
I was so confident that this story was going to to be shared.
Oh,
It
yeah.
just wasn't that day.
Not that day, but it's today.
Yeah.
I even, in Amazon, I have in my car luggage.
Yeah.
Because right now when we move things back and forth, we're just carrying things with
all
our
the,
hands.
yeah, the $1,000 mics, just casually carrying them. Should probably put them in something.
So I'm like, we should probably invest in luggage.
Yeah.
Something like that. But it's in the Amazon car. It'll happen. Because one day this will happen again where someone's like, come to me, come chase me down. Okay, we'll do it. So today we have Pete, and we'll let you introduce yourself. Because I have this feeling that as you introduce yourself, it's just going to run into what God's doing in your life and your story and all that stuff. So
Certainly. My name is Pete Sauer. I'm from Vinton, Iowa. And my hope today is to share my story of my faith, my love for God, what he's done in my life. In this last month or last year, facing a battle of cancer, and what God has done and what he's allowed me to do, and how he's shown me to be humble and be acceptance of what he promises me. And it's been a journey of one that I've walked every day in faith and belief, and I've shared that with my family, my friends, my coworkers, and truly have been humbled about what he's done in my life. And I'm excited to just share the story and share my journey.
yeah. Do you, before we even jumped on here, I briefly asked a question and then I kind of stopped because I'm like, I better just save this. Because getting to know someone is part of this process, right? And so I had asked, I'm like, Pete, did you grow up in church? And I asked that because I was singing some old worship song. But so did you grow up like with faith in church?
I was on and off in church. Sometimes with my neighbors I went. My family itself had belief in God. They weren't great churchgoers. They weren't religiously every Sunday. my faith and my commitment to church really started when I met my wife, Michelle. In order to go through the process of marriage, I had to kind of give my life in that direction, and had to go through the classes. Everything needed to be done through our church to be married in it. So that's really when my journey started back in 89, 88. Started to understand the process and what it really meant to have that in your life. Wow. And I've kind of ran with that since, and kind of entrusted all that belief and the understanding of what the Bible truly means and what it's about. And so that's kind of where I started off. It wasn't when I was 13.
Right.
I can remember when I was in sports growing up in junior high, where are all these kids going on Wednesday? How come I don't get to go? I have to still keep working out and training and running laps and doing all this stuff, And so
they all get out of it. They got church.
That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So
I need to go to church.
Right. So yeah, that's really how it started in my life. And
it reminds me of my husband will get so mad at me for saying this, but because I asked him once too, like, have you always been a Christian? Like, what's your story? Like when we were first dating, right? And he's like, actually, the first time I went to church, I think it was like a girlfriend that he had in high school. And he's like, why is it always that it's the girlfriend that gets you to church?
My husband was the same way. When we met, he was raised in a Christian family.
Yes.
But it wasn't until I came along that I was, again, and at that point I was pretty still half in, half out. If I'm being totally honest.
Yeah.
But there was a part of me that knew. And so I remember like looking at him and being like, hey, you want to get to me, you got to get to him. Like we got to go to church, because it's such a big part of who I am. If you don't understand that part, you won't understand me.
And it didn't take me long to figure that out. When I met my wife, and in this journey, I'll kind of explain it. We've been married going on 37 years. I started dating her when she was a freshman in high school. So 41 of her 58 years of her life, we've been together. And when I met her, I really saw that side of her family with her grandparents, her family, how important that was in her life to have that that belief and that going to church and singing the gospel and praising God for everything He's done for us. And so I got to experience that a little bit, and so I know that was part of my journey and part of the process of understanding and getting there in life. Doesn't mean that it doesn't have its struggles and there wasn't hills to climb, but certainly it was a blessing to me to be able to experience that on that side of her family. And, I know her grandparents were such a huge impact on her life, as well as her parents, as well. But, when you go to family functions and events and holidays, you truly get to experience that.
Yeah.
And,
especially
those
whenever families will use traditions and holidays to point back to Jesus.
Right.
Because I think that's that's another thing too, is like anyone can throw an Easter party, right? But because you're invited into a family that's like, hey, we're going to honor God, like this is about Jesus, then you're introduced to it. And so I think that's really cool, because I'm like, sometimes I think as a parent, it's hard. It's a hard place to be in, where you're like, am I living in the world right now by celebrating this? Am I honoring Jesus? What am I doing for my kids and generations to come? And just that thought. So it's cool to hear you say that you were touched by something like that.
It's just, it's something that it kind of just opens your eyes and it touches you a little bit, and you process that. And that may be going home that day in the car. It might be the next day. It might be something that you can resonate with, that you connected with it.
That's so good. Yeah, because it might, the fruit of that might not happen in the moment.
Correct.
Is the hard part, because I think we're always so focused on how someone's responding in the moment, or what they're gonna think, or am I gonna hurt their feelings, or is this gonna happen? You have no idea what fruit is being created later.
Yes.
That they were witness to because of that family's obedience.
Yeah.
Luckily, it happened pretty quickly for you. But there's some kids, that we've experienced, and we've had situations where maybe a family came in and they witnessed it, but it didn't hit yet, right? It didn't penetrate yet for whatever reason. It's God's timing. But I love that you said that, because it's like, we're not always going to bear that fruit right away. Yeah, that's so good.
I, going off that, sorry, it's like, this just came to my mind. I remember once, it was one of the first times, I just had a ringing in my ear. We were hosting a Bible study here, me and Josie, and week after week after week, like we're all studying with a bunch of women, right? And reading the Bible, and we're reading the story of Jesus. So the Gospels, right? We're reading about his miracles that he did, parables that he said, the way he interacted with people. And a couple weeks in, someone called or texted me and Josie, and they're like, can you come in early and pray for healing for a part of my body? And all day, I was scared to death. I'm just going to be honest. I was raised in a church where I saw stuff happen as a kid, but I had never put hands on someone and believed for a miracle to happen. And so now we're placed in this spot, like all day I'm just praying. I'm like, God, can I do this? Can I do this?
Am I offending you? Is this what?
Does it take a special person?
Am
right?
I okay to do this?
Yeah.
And so, that night comes and we pray, and she walks away, and it wasn't like automatically like a gold tooth appeared or a leg grew back, right? Like it wasn't something, it wasn't something
which
huge.
does happen, but.
And I honestly, for me, I was really discouraged. The next day I called one of my mentors, and I was like, man, I was put in this position and nothing happened. That's what I said. I was like, it didn't work. I didn't pray hard enough. I didn't say the right things. I don't think I had enough faith. And so I'm like, I disappointed her and God. And he said, he's like, this is the thing is, one, the only thing you can do is be obedient.
Yeah,
right.
You can't heal anyone.
Sit down.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that's true. He's like, it's not
Yeah.
because you're not good enough,
Yeah.
right? Like your step was to say, yes, Lord.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what your step was. And so he's like, so one, you were obedient, and two, God doesn't always, like the fruit of what you see is probably so much bigger
Yeah, for
than
sure.
just a
Yeah.
leg growing back.
Yeah,
Or
I mean,
do you know what
her
I mean?
asking for healing in the first place,
Right.
is huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
'Cause she
us
wasn't-
saying yes. We're like, so God's doing way more than you see, right? Like and that's why I love when we were talking about the fruit. You don't always see the fruit. And I'm like, sometimes I think the miracle, the fruit, the blessing is one thing, but really what God's doing is 10 other things that we really need.
Yeah, it's good.
You know?
Absolutely. And
It's good.
very similar in my case, my journey in battle with cancer,
Yes.
what God is doing in my life is so much bigger than cancer, and what he's allowed me to share and do
It's good.
is beyond humbling. And cancer takes a back seat to it with what he's doing in my life and what he's able to allow me to share. And for that, I'm just so blessed because I really do have that strength and that power. My family knows that, my friends, my coworkers. So it's such a bigger, more powerful thing than just that C word to me.
Right.
And I don't walk in fear. I don't have that anxiety. I don't have the unknown and worry about answers. And I've been given them all, and it's truly a blessing.
Pete, it's one, we're just, as we kind of navigate into your story, I wish we told you this before when we met you with coffee and we just kind of got to know each other before the episode. We're incredibly honored. Seriously. We are incredibly honored to be trusted. We know how important your story is, and we know how powerful your story is. And we love that God's given us the opportunity for you to share it. And so for the listeners, as we kind of shift gears here and navigate into the beginning of his story, just prepare your hearts for this one. I know Pete throughout the story doesn't want this to be viewed as sadness. He wants this to be viewed as the power of God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amen, for sure.
That this is not Pete's story, air quotes, that this is what God is doing in Pete's story that's changing lives. So as we just prepare to kind of go into that, just pray for a second and kind of speak to the Lord and ask him to just give you a soft heart as you're listening to Pete's story. But I would love for you, start wherever you want, wherever you're comfortable. But I'm so excited for them to listen to this.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you for the opportunity to share my story. And, it is truly an experience that I cherish and I will have forever, that I've been given the opportunity to share this message. And thank you both for having me, number one. I've been in sales my whole life, so I'm a pretty talkative person. I'm a pretty positive person. My friends and family will say he could walk into anywhere and strike up a conversation, and it'd take hours for him to get out of there. But there are some moments here where it's hard for me, just truly because of the purpose and the meaning of what I'm talking about.
Yep.
But I know through the faith and what I've experienced, that process comes easy to me as well. So I can kind of start there. But
yeah, please.
About a year ago, I had a really bad cold. I coughed something terrible for weeks on end, and it got to the point, when you have 37 years of marriage, when you hear your wife say enough times you need to go get some checked out because I can't sleep at night because I'm coughing all night, you kind of realize you better start listening here. She's starting to get serious with me here. So long story short, I ended up going to get some medicine, and I had walking pneumonia that was borderline going into pneumonia, and I had an upper respiratory infection, and it's probably the worst that I've had in a long time as far as coughing. I took 2 rounds of medicine, and I just kept coughing. It wouldn't go away. Well, what I'd basically done over a several month period of time is I created an umbilical hernia just because I coughed so much.
The pressure of the
coughing created a small hernia. So one night, this was about mid-October, I had a terrible night sleeping, and I could not get comfortable in bed. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, okay, it's the hernia. You need to go have this checked out. So this was a Sunday night, the 16th of October, and I literally got no sleep. And so it was at that point I realized I need to go get this checked out. So I went to the emergency room on Monday. My wife went with me in the morning, explained to the doctors what I thought had going on, what I thought was, a hernia. And they did a CT scan, and it took a while for to come back. We just sat down in the emergency room and we waited, and the doctor come in. And sometimes you get that look from a doctor. You kind of makes you take a double look, and you're not really sure what's going on here. And his first words were that, we see a small hernia, but we're not so much concerned about that as ours. We saw some fluid in your abdomen. And I'm thinking, okay, that's some fluid. What does that mean? And a couple of minutes later, he said, I have to let you know that we have some cancer concerns with this. And I looked over at my wife. She was sitting to my right, and I looked at her, and I could see the fear, and I could see her eyes light up, and I could see kind of like the tears starting to build a little bit, just hearing the word cancer, right?
For sure.
And in a split second, and this is where my journey really starts with God and what He's done for me and what He's given me is, like when you're on a really high rooftop, you're in a skyscraper, and you kind of look over the edge, and you get that funny feeling in your stomach.
Yes.
As I was sitting there, I had that.
Yeah.
And I instantly had a message from God telling me that do not fear, do not worry, that I have you. And in that same breath, He said, but I want you to know it's serious. And I told my wife that she was sitting there. I told her this. So basically the doctor said, we want to follow up with some tests, go home and, just come back in a couple of days, and we're going to maybe try to drain some of this fluid out of your abdomen that we're seeing and try to see what that is. So, we went home that night, not really getting answers other than, I might have a small hernia, but you might have cancer. So that night we held each other. We prayed, we cried, we went through every emotion you think you can go through. But one thing that I do remember is we had faith and we had belief, and then the moment that I had in that room meant something to me, and it was something that was very, very powerful that I've never experienced before.
Mm-hmm.
And so a couple of days later, we went back to get the fluid drained, and when I went up to the room where they were going to do the draining process or going through to look at stuff with CAT scans and MRIs and stuff, they couldn't find any fluid. The fluid was gone. So basically I was sent home, and we went home and basically had to set up more doctor's appointments for upper and lower GI scopes and try to figure out what's going on. And I had in a CT scan where my fluid was, they noticed that there was some light colored gray areas where it should be very clear. And that ended up being what they're calling omental thickening. So that was a a form of cancer that had landed in my abdomen that came from a primary source somewhere. But through all the tests, whether it was an MRI or a CT scan or a PET scan, there wasn't a single doctor that could find where the primary cancer was coming from. So we struggled with an answer with that. We really didn't have a great answer. So long story short, another 2 or 3 weeks, I got to get the PET scan done. The PET scan we were hoping would really show us where it's coming from. It didn't show us anything where the primary source or where this was coming from, because the abdomen is really a secondary landing spot for this cancer. In other words, it got in my blood and it transferred to my abdomen and it just kind of sat there and it created this mental thickening. So, 6 weeks into this journey, all we knew is that I've got a little bit of cancer. At that point, that's what we thought. And we're not sure where it's coming from, but, we're going to keep trying to figure this out. So I ended up going to Mayo. We had to do more tests. Let me back up a little bit. I did have my hernia surgery. It was a small one. They fixed that. But they also did a biopsy of the tumors in the area in my abdomen, and they found out that it came back. And cancer's got numbers like CKY10, and there's all kinds of crazy numbers. And that tells you what kind of cancer it is. And mine ended up coming back as a lower GI cancer. So in other words, they're about 90% sure it started as a colon cancer. But weeks before that, I had, the upper and lower GI scopes, and everything came back. There was nothing wrong. Everything was positive. There's nothing negative. There wasn't any polyps. There was anything that looked wrong. So they still didn't know where it was coming from. What I found out in Mayo was that basically it was pretty confident it was started as a colon cancer. And the reason that we didn't see that through the colonoscopy or through the lower GI scope is they found something on the outside, and they think that's where it started, and it got in my blood and it basically transferred into my abdomen, and that's how the cancer basically developed within me. So we finally got some of an answer, of where and what it is. But that took a long time, and the burden of that was the unknown for a long time for me and my wife, my family, of just trying to battle through every day of, ultimately you're gonna stay strong. You're gonna believe in God. You're gonna believe in His promise. I believed in what He shared with me that day in the emergency room.
Right.
But yet, the unknown was the hardest part for my family, for my wife, for our friends.
And what you, what He spoke to you wasn't you're going to be healed.
Yeah.
This is serious.
This is serious. I got that all in one paragraph, one sentence.
You got
do
not fear and this.
So He promised me His love, His comfort, His strength.
Yeah.
But He also told me that it was serious.
Right.
And that's something when you feel it and you have it, it comes out. And you share that. And I wanted my wife to know that I got both sides of that. And I told my brother that too, and his first reaction was, well, don't read into it or don't think, I said, no, I felt something.
He is truth and love.
Yeah. And it took a long time to get to get the answers of what it was, but we finally got those answers. And so that kind of leads me into what I'll say, and I'll share this at the end, that I've always looked at my life as a book, but I'm kind of going into my second chapter of this journey part of it, of now, okay, I've got the diagnosis. I know what they've said to me that, Pete, this is a serious cancer. You're in stage 4. You've got some stuff in your abdomen, some tumors and some other stuff that, is very concerning, that at this point, really surgery is not an option at this point. But these are the things that we need to talk about, and this is the direction we kind of need to go. And so it's kind of where I'm going into the second chapter of this, or part 2 of this for me, was understanding what I've got going on in my body, accepting it, and sharing that with so many people in my life, my family, number one, my coworkers, my customers. And this is really where the strength and power of my journey starts, honestly, other than God initially telling me, hey, I got you, don't worry. But we're going to go through this together, and it's serious, right?
Yeah.
So I spent I've been with this job of mine for 37 years. So my family obviously comes first when I share this what's going on in my life. And so, that was hard sharing them what I've been told, what's to be expected, what's to come. And so first and foremost, I shared that with my family. And, we obviously understood the devastation news. We understood the how critical it was. But we also realized what more important time than now than to lean on God and our faith and our strength, because that's what we need every single day. And I have stayed true to that every single day I shouldn't say every single day, because darn near every day. For the last 19 weeks, I try to send a positive message to my family every day about what God's doing for us and how he's working for us and how he promises us these things, and that, your comfort needs to come from him and me.
Yeah.
I, not to cut you out, I was lucky enough to receive one of these really cool, positive messages from Pete, and receiving a message like that from someone so anointed by the Lord to share their story is really powerful.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful that I was able to receive one, and I'm a little jealous of your family that gets to receive them every day. I'm teasing,
I know,
but
I know.
they're powerful. They're very powerful. They're anointed.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And my wife will testify to this, or she understands this, but I have my family, and then I have my second family. My second family is my job.
Yeah.
And I realized in my job early on in my career that what makes somebody successful isn't about how much money you make, or isn't about what you are promised that they'll give you. It's about building relationships and about earning trust, like we do with Jesus and what he gives us. That's first and foremost.
So good, Pete.
So when I walk in to see somebody, I look at their office and I see, oh, this guy's a fisherman. I can connect in that because I love to fish, or he's a golfer, or maybe he reads, or whatever it is. So when I say they become family, I mean that in the sense that I earn their trust first, and I learn about them and their family. I've got customers that say, you probably know more about my family than some of my family members know about my family, just because I put them first.
Yeah.
And so getting through my immediate family, then going to what I'm going to call my second family, I spent 2 weeks sharing with what I'll call my second family about what's going on with Pete. And the purpose of that is I wanted them to understand what's going on with me, and that if I'm not available, you know why,
Right.
and that you can still reach out to these people, and they'll take care of you if in times are hard for me, or if something's going on, because I'm the type of guy that they've leaned on for 37 years, and so when they don't hear back from me in 20 minutes, there's something wrong. So I needed them to know that, number one. So it took about 2 weeks to tell hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of customers of mine and friends and coworkers that I've built this relationship with to get the message of what I'm going through.
Yeah.
And in that 2 week time of doing that, I got to tell you, if every tear and hug and sorry and blessings that I received could cure cancer, it would have been cured.
Yeah.
It was the roughest 2 weeks of my life.
Yeah.
Just to feel the love and the comfort that they showed me and they gave me. And I can remember laying in bed one night, that me and my wife, every night we pray, every night when we go to bed, we talk. And it was a long 2 weeks of sharing my story, right? And I can remember laying in bed and I said, God, you need to help me here. You need to give me a sign. Because you've already given me sign from day one in the emergency room. I said, I need your strength. I need you to know that you're with me. Give me something, please. And I closed my eyes and I went to sleep that night. The following week, it might have been midweek, a blessing truly happened, and it was God's answer to me. And it was very clear, very prominent, very strong. These hundreds and hundreds of customers that I reached out to stopped in the middle of the day, maybe in the middle of the night, maybe early in the morning. They were calling me. They were texting me. They were emailing me. They were calling and reaching out to me to say, Pete, last week or the week before, your message that you gave me, the battle that you have, and the strength and the promise that you're telling me that God has given you, you're making me realize I don't have that. And I maybe want that. I can remember driving home with tears running down my cheeks. I couldn't stop them. And I thank God, there's my answer. He showed me that we are going to change lives in this journey. Very early in this journey, that we're going to change lives. And when I tell you people reached out, my wife would testify to this. It's 12:30 at night. Ding! Phone goes off. Pete, I'm laying here in bed. I can't sleep. I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about how powerful and how strong you walk and what your belief is. And I can't get to sleep. And thank you so much for showing me a way and a path. It hasn't stopped for 17 weeks. Today, every day. I share those with my family constantly. And that drive home that day from work, when the tears just wouldn't stop, there were tears of pure love and purpose and journey and understanding that God is standing by my side. He's given me the strength. He's given me the ability to share this. And it was his way of putting his arm around me and saying, we got this. We got this. That may have been the most incredible moment of my life when that part of it started to change and people started to understand, and it truly had an effect on them. And so it was an incredible experience that I shared with so many of my family members in this process with my pastor. I will say I meet with my pastor and Stephen Preuss in Vinton there at Trinity Lutheran. He's an incredible man. When you are in a position like you guys, we have a calling to spread the word and to give your love to people every single day, regardless of who they are or what they're about. He has given me so much strength and so much positive in my life, and he has helped been a rock for me as well. So I share the stories with him a lot too. And as a pastor, it's pretty nice to have him in your phone and text him at 8 o'clock at night
that's right.
when he's putting kids down to bed and say, hey, this just happened to me. I want to share it with you.
Wow.
So it is so cool.
Yeah.
And so, that was the second time that God really spoke to me and really assured me, I've got you, and we are going to make it through this together.
Purpose.
Yeah, it certainly was. It was so pure and so directed at his promise to me. Yeah. And I knew it.
You know what I wrote down when you were talking, because you're like, okay, this is like kind of like chapter 1, right? This is where this story begins. Yeah. And it's you in the hospital, you finding out, you processing for 6 weeks without answers, scared, but not super fearful because God's talked to you, but still processing, right? Yeah. But you have this promise from God. And so I wrote down chapter 1 is faith, which faith is believing without seeing, right? And so you're holding on to something and you're like, okay, I'm going to trust this. I'm going to have faith that this was you. Yeah. Because even when your family is talking to you and being like, I don't know, Pete, like, don't think the worst. And you're like, no, I know it is. Like, you're holding on to that faith. And that's what faith is believing in something that you can't see. Then you start talking about chapter 2, where you're like, okay, this here is chapter 2. Yeah. And I wrote down, in chapter 2, it sounds like you're standing in the promise. Yes. So at first it's faith holding on. And then you get, I don't even know, you had a little bit of confirmation, it sounded like. Yes. And so now you're standing in the promise, which what was the promise when God spoke to you? It's do not fear, which means I will protect you. Yeah. Right? I will strengthen you. Yes. I will hold you. I will comfort you. Like, so now you're standing in these promises, going around talking to everyone, being the person who, instead of like running away and hiding because you're scared, you're like, know what? I'm going to stand in God's promise and not be scared. And then this third time I wrote down really fast, and it came up when we were praying before. It came out when I was praying. Because you're like, then God spoke to me again and kind of confirmed, which we see through scripture. God does that all the time. Right. When he talks, he'll confirm, right? Yep. Whenever you have a calling, he'll confirm it. Yeah. And so this is what I'm really excited about getting into this part too of your story is now you had faith. then you start standing in his promise, and now you're empowered to go and make disciples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so right
Amen.
now,
For
all
sure.
these texts that are coming in, you're like, I'm so overwhelmed. And God's like, that's the promise.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah.
the promise I gave
That's
you.
the point.
Yeah, like that's the harvest. When you stand in my promise and you have enough faith, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Is that's the Great Commission. Go and make
Yep.
disciples.
People are pointed to Jesus.
Yeah,
That's right.
and not out of our own strength or doing.
Yeah.
It's allowing God to do it through us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so now you're in chapter 3 where like you are empowered by him
Yep.
to go and make disciples. Crazy.
It is. And, similar to what you said, I did the same thing as this process is going through my life,
Yes.
this journey. I get home at night and I think of Psalms, chapter in 23:4, whatever, where we walk through the valley of death, but we fear no evil, right? God was saying, do not fear that I have you.
Right.
And if you put your trust in me, we're going to get through this together.
That's right.
Yep.
And
That's right.
And it's
And you're going to see things that you've never seen before.
experienced before. And I get into this pattern, and it's what is humbling for me is that I could be having a talk with the owner of my company, or maybe my wife, or maybe my son or my daughter, or whoever, and it'll happen in my phone again, and it'll be just somebody reaching out, showing me their love, their promise of how I'm touching their lives and what's going on. And my reaction every time is one of, it just doesn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
And when it doesn't stop, what it's doing is empowering you. It is lifting you up. It is letting you to continue to walk in this unbelievable journey that I'm on. I can't tell you the number of times I said, it just doesn't stop. Yeah. It just doesn't end. And it is, I told my pastor yesterday when we met for over an hour, I said, I can't put it into words what it means to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I could find the words of what it truly means to have this, this moment where it does have an effect on people, and it is changing lives, and it is allowing me to share so much, and to share it with humility and strength and God's promise, and walk with my head up every day
Yeah.
and have no fear.
Well, and
Period.
as you're sharing that, I kind of debated sharing it with you, especially on here or not, because I just wanted the focus to be so much about what God's doing in your life.
But you get the message.
We want
but
more.
I know, but I feel like you're like staring into my soul and my heart's pounding. So I'm like, all right, that's usually the Holy Spirit telling me to share something. But
That's
back on Tuesday when we met, you didn't know this. After I met you, I had a meeting with my lead pastor's wife. She's also a pastor on staff, Pastor Christy. Shout out. And it was a year-long thought process of whether I was going to go back to school or not.
Yeah.
And sitting with you that morning as you shared your story, I realized how much I was making the decision about me of whether to go back or not. And that's what kept me so stuck.
sure.
I realized I was making it so much about what's best for me, what's easiest for me, what I think God can do through me. What I realized how me focused I was
Yeah.
with it, and watching you share your story and how you've taken something crazy that has happened to you and multiplied it and have affected people. That I got back in my car and I was just praying, and I was looking at your bracelet that you gave us. He gave us these little bracelets and it says Pete's Way. And I was looking down at it and I'm like, man, this decision it's never been about you. It's always been about the people that you're going to affect.
Correct.
And so you sharing your story empowered me. And that day I signed up for classes and I bought my first class.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going back to school to become
Awesome.
a certified, licensed, and hopefully one day ordained minister. And you were such a push in that. You were such you really propelled that. I believe God would have gotten me there some way, but I think he used Pete.
He pushed a little bit.
I think he used Pete to be like, hey, we've got to stop making this decision about you, because your calling isn't about you. It's about the people that you're going to affect, just like Pete.
Yeah.
You know, and so You're talking about how it's just story after story after story and person after person after person that you're affecting. And the first time I met you, the first time you walked into the coffee shop, you sat down, I knew immediately you were going to affect me and my life and my faith journey. That's what you do. I mean, seriously, if you're in a room with Pete, you'll leave stronger. If you're in a room with Pete, you'll leave more confident in God. If you're in a room with Pete, you'll submit better to God. Like it follows you, Pete.
Amen.
Like it's just, you're so full of the Holy Spirit. It's beautiful.
Well, and I think whenever we left there, one of the comments, and it just kind of came out, and I'm like, oh, it sounds so profound. It wasn't really me. But I'm like, gosh, no one sees you anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like, I said this, it's Pete's brother. He's a good friend of ours. And I ran into him last night, the night before we're about to jump on a podcast with his brother. And I'm like, I don't even feel like I see Pete. I feel like I see God's glory.
Yeah.
His love, his protection, his strength, his courage, do you know what I mean? Like you see God, and I got teary talking to Eric, because I'm like, literally a prayer that I pray all the time is, I'm like, there's a story in the Bible about when Moses spends time with God on the mountain, and he walks down and his face is shining. And I'm like, not because he's God, but because he has spent so much time in intimacy with God that now that's all he shines. Yeah. And pure. So I had said that when we met him, I'm like, I don't think they see you anymore. Yeah. I think they're seeing God. Yeah. Because it's a whole new intimacy with him. Yep. Oh. And the cool thing, so that verse that I kind of had said, like, we're supposed to go make disciples. Before Jesus even says that, I just wrote this down. He says, the harvest is plentiful and the workers are few. Mm. And I feel like that's a verse that's said often. And I think in the world we live in, it's taken as, I need to work for God. Yeah. I need to do stuff. I need to get into ministry. I need to start Bible studies. I need to, Yeah. And I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm like, the harvest is plentiful. Obviously, we're seeing a huge harvest right now in your life. Yes. Yeah. The workers are few. Why are the workers few? I don't think it's because people don't know Jesus. I think it's because we can't surrender. Yeah. We can't say yes. Yeah. We can't, you know what I mean? Like, we can't put our own desires aside enough, or pride aside enough to be like, I'm going to say yes to classes. I'm going to say yes to
sharing my story.
Sharing my story. And I want you to hit on, I knew you're like, oh, do you want me to hit on this or not? But that decision of, do I go through chemo radiation? Do I not? Like, because again, like, for me,
that's good, Leah.
Yes, good, I'm like, because you could be like, okay, well, like, God could heal, but I'm going to do this. But then, God's calling you to something else. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's good. And so I'm like, do you actually surrender and trust God and hold on to the promise? Right. Is his promise enough? That's hard too. Because right now his promise wasn't, I'm going to save your life.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. Correct. It's, I'm going to be with you.
Yep. Exactly. 100% true. That was such a difficult time in this journey of mine is, I walked through this weeks on end of just not really having answers and not really having a decision and a treatment. And quickly, I looked for an alternative method of maybe some treatment that I could look at, and Michelle, my wife, she spent all night one night in Cedar Rapids trying to find all these alternative things that I could start taking, because we really hadn't gotten a direction of where I'm going to go with this, but we felt we needed to do something, right? Yeah. So she found all these medicines that I know we've talked about, and it's talked about in this cancer world right now of alternative stuffs, and it's the ivermectins, the fembendazoles, and the methane blues, and all this. Yep. She found all this stuff, but it came home and then she put it on the table, and it was just I almost had like anxiety. I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know how to take it, when to take it, what is it supposed to do. Even though we researched it and we checked it out, that night, I said to Michelle, and we prayed, and I said, let's not worry about it now. Let's just pray on it that somehow God gives us an answer what we're going to do here.
That's good.
And so I woke up in the morning. I had to go to the bank to take care of some financial stuff to see my advisor. Well, I got my days messed up. He's there on Mondays, not Tuesdays. So I was there on Tuesday, of course, Anyway, he's not there. And so I'm kind of like, I really wanted to get this taken care of today, but now I can't. Right. So another guy that I know walks around the corner and he says, hey, Pete, how are you? And I says, I'm doing good. He said, you look like you lost some weight. You sure you're okay? And it's like, brother, you got 10 minutes. I'll tell you. So I gave him my whole story, and obviously he's got tears running down his cheek, and he wants to know if I've heard of these 3 things of the alternatives that I talked about. And I said, it's funny you ask.
Confirmation.
Last night, my wife and I prayed that somebody would help us figure this out. And I said, and you're asking me about it. And he says, hang on. He picks up his phone. He dials a number. He talks to a gentleman, and he says, hey, I want to know if you got these 3 things that we talked about. And he says, yeah, I got those. And this guy says, let me ask you a question. Is this for somebody that has cancer? And he says, yes. His name's Pete. He's sitting right across the table from me. The guy on the other end says, Pete, you come see me tomorrow. I'll take care of you. I know what you want. I know what you need. I know how much you're going to take. And I just prayed the night before that somebody give us a direction, give us some light on this. And by a mistake of going to the bank on the wrong day and not expecting to see this guy that I do know, he led me to somebody that is dealing with this stuff.
And what I love, Pete, about your decision, because as you're getting diagnosed, it's running through your head, right? I'm sure, like chemo.
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to do?
What am I going to do?
Right. And instead of just blindly following the world's procedures, which I'm not saying is bad,
no,
right?
Absolutely not. Correct.
That can be a journey for someone.
It can be a benefit. Absolutely.
Yes, as someone goes, and so can the other way. Yeah. But I like that you didn't pick either right away. Right. What'd you do? You prayed.
I prayed first.
You were in the spirit. Yeah. And it's really hard to stay like that when things are being promised from the outside, but you took it to God.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so good, Pete.
So I went there the next day. I met with him. He was a man of faith. He said, Pete, I'm only here to help you if I can. And if it's God's will to help you as an alternative type medicine, let it be. He says, but that's in his hands, and I understood that. At this point, I had nothing to lose. I wasn't doing anything. I thought I would give it a try, and I'm still continuing to do that today. So that's kind of chapter 3 that I've went through now of just listening to God and having him answer my prayers and give me direction. And then the 4th one for me was, it was the day of my birthday, January 17th. And anybody that knows me knows that I'm fairly active. I run 3 miles a night, 5 nights a week. I'm always busy doing stuff. I mean, my energy level is just always usually pretty active and through the roof, right? And I can remember sitting in my chair the night of my birthday. Of course, we had family over for stuff, and we've been going through this journey of this cancer battle with my family, and knowing that, Pete doesn't get to run the 3 miles anymore because he just doesn't have the strength to do it. And it's just a little bit different of a feeling. Right, yeah. I was sitting in my chair and I was like, I didn't read my devotion today in my book. My sister got me. And I picked it up. And on January 17th, the day of my birthday, and keep in mind this was published a year ago, right? Because it's out on the shelves in advance. Right. But on my day, it says, endure to the end. And when I first read that, I thought, wow, that's what I'm doing right now. Is I am writing my chapter of what I'm going to call enduring my end, in the sense, right?
Yeah.
And it reads this: I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have remained faithful, and now the prize awaits me, the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give me one day of his return. And the prize is not just for me, but for all who eagerly look forward to him appearing. That's in 2 Timothy chapter 2, 4, 7, and 8. And then it proceeds to say, just as a marathon runner, this was so meant for me. Just as a marathon runner must train hard to build their endurance so they can run the race and finish well, so Christians must train hard to build endurance for a living of life of faith in Jesus and staying strong to the end. When you have built up your endurance, you will not collapse during the race, but push forward toward the goal of becoming more and more like Jesus. Then you will cross the finish line into heaven and receive eternal rewards of his promise to you. And I can remember reading that and just tears running down my cheek, that was so meant for me. And that was another promise of he knows. He knows me. He knows what that meant for me on the day of my birthday. Yeah. And and I remember saying, I went, okay, let's go to April 24th or any day, God's ambition, September 2nd. It was endured to the end for me.
On your On your birthday.
On my birthday, on the journey of what I'm battling.
Yeah.
And on the day that you missed it at first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were feeling a little defeated.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then
here
you
it
remember.
just picked me right up. And,
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember saying to my wife and to my family, I can't believe that slipped today, that I didn't read on my day what it was about. And there it was, really defining everything that I'm about and what I'm going through, which was just incredible. Incredible.
Pete, that is your verse.
You know,
that is
verse.
Pete's verse.
It's just, it was pretty amazing. And I kind of go into now what I'll call my fourth or last chapter in my book or whatever, if as we're paragraphing or we're kind of putting it in perspective, that I met with my doctor in Cedar Rapids at the cancer center. She took a lot of time and reviewed my case, my situation, what's going on in my body. My son went with me and my wife. She spent about an hour with us. And I'm just going to be honest, we truly felt her love and her passion for what she does as a job. And what she shared with us, that she understood my situation. One thing that I've done with all my doctors and all my visits, whether it's Mayo in Minneapolis or whether or Rochester or whether it's Cedar Rapids or Iowa, wherever, the first thing I do is I give them my phone and I let them read what Pete's scripture is, what I'm about, what I believe, because that's important for me, for them to know that this is what's important for me. And she read that, she understood it, she appreciated it, and she kind of took a deep breath and she pushed back and she said that, I'm sorry. I understand and I feel your strength and your love and your faith, but this is a battle. And if you can truly give me just a little bit of time to help you, or give me that ability to maybe help you a little bit, I think I can help. I can do that. And I thanked her for that. We had just an unbelievable conversation. She was so passionate and so true about what was important to her and what she knew was important to me and my family. Yeah. And I said to her, I said, I got to go home and I got to think about this over the weekend. Because what I've done, to your point, I haven't rushed into decisions. I make sure I take the time and I make sure that it's the correct thing for me. Because it's so easy to make a wrong decision, sometimes based on emotion, sometimes based on what you want to believe or fear, and it's not the right one.
That's good. Yeah.
So I did that.
And different for everybody. Yeah. Right? Like what someone else chooses is good for them maybe. Yes. Right? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like God is writing stories differently in everyone's life.
And that's why it's so important for each person to be submitted to the Holy Spirit.
Correct.
Yeah. And their walk. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I can remember it was Saturday morning. We met with that doctor and our appointment was on, I think, Thursday. And I said, I need the weekend. I remember Saturday morning, my wife and I were sitting in our chairs. I had my Bible out and she was reading her stuff as well. And I had a number show up on my phone. And it was a 515 number. So I knew it was Des Moines. And it was a man that I met 37 years ago. Has retired years and years ago. But it was one of my first weeks of becoming and getting into sales and going out on my own and making cold calls. He called me about 8:30 in the morning that morning, and he knows my faith, and he knows I'm going through this battle. In this printing business and world, that when you're connected as long as I have been, word spreads like a wildfire. What's going on in Pete's life, right? All over the state of Iowa. Yeah. And so he got word of it, and he called me, and we'd talked prior to that, maybe a week before, a little bit about it. But he called me that Saturday morning, and I said to my wife, I whispered to her, I said, here comes another one, And so I put it on speaker because I wanted her to hear it, because I shared those with her too. And it was a gentleman that, again, he said, Pete, hey, this is Bob. I just want you to know that I love you. I've been praying for you, and I'm so blessed to know that you've got your strength with God and that you walk with him every day and you live within his promise, and he does all these things for us, And I said to him, I said, Bob, I got to tell you something. 37 years ago, as a young man that walked into a printing company that I knew nothing about, and when I remember pulling into your driveway and I look at the sign, and the sign of the name of his printing company was called Christian Printers. And I thought to myself when I pulled into there, because sometimes cold calls and sales calls can be kind of nasty and kind of be, we ain't got time for you. And, I already know what you do, or come back tomorrow.
Yep. Yep.
I walked in, I took 2 steps in this man's door, and he put his arm around me, told me that he loved me. He told me God loved me. And that sign means more than just a business.
Yeah.
I've never forgot that.
Yep.
That has lived in me from day one. And I told him that Saturday morning when he called, you have no idea what this call meant to me, right? And we hung up. We said our prayers, and as we do every time he leaves or calls me or texts me, he ends it in a prayer. But I can remember at that point, and I was overcome with emotion. I said to my wife, I said, I think I'm going to try chemo. I'll explain my decision on that here in a little bit. I said, but I'm not 100% sure. I said, I still got to put the work in to get to where I need to be. And I remember that Saturday night going to bed, and I didn't feel good. I was a little bit angry. I had some frustrations. My stomach didn't feel good. I had a hard time sleeping. I was tired of being tired. I just had a lot of emotions that night. And I realized it's okay for me to have Pete time and let loose and cry and just, let it out. In which I kind of did that night. And I got up Sunday morning and we went to church. And in the middle of church, I was a little bit emotional. I really wasn't really sure why. And I hadn't heard the sermon yet, but I was a little bit emotional. And sometimes just because, when you go to your congregation, you go to your church member, the people that love you, they reach out, they touch you, they want to pray for you, they want to do all these things. So it's emotional from the beginning when you walk in. It is.
I'm always crying at church. Don't
Exactly. Exactly. So Pastor Proy starts his sermon, and he talks a little bit about, Genesis, everything that he creates and he does, right? And then he goes to Exodus, in chapter 11, where he creates the heavens and the earths and the seas, and he does all this stuff for us in 6 days, right?
Yeah.
And the 7th day, our holy day, he rests, right?
Yeah.
And he's telling this story, and he's telling the church about what God does for us and what he promises us. And I can remember him talking about on the 7th day how he rested, how that is our resting place as well. And that is our eternal heaven. And that is a place that we ultimately want to be. And that's his promise. And I can remember tears just running down my cheek in church, and I couldn't stop them. And I grabbed my sister-in-law's hand, and I grabbed my wife's hand, and she looked at me. And I said, I got my answer. And she kind of smiled and said, okay. And usually when we exit church, we might mingle for a couple minutes, or we just go out to our car and we go home, have breakfast and coffee, And I said, hang on a second, I got to go back inside. So I went back inside, and Pastor was finishing up greeting, members and talking with them like he does at that and every sermon service. And he seen me coming. And I spend weeks and weeks with this man, learning from him and accepting what he teaches us and what he gives us. And he knew I got my answer. And we both had a little bit of a tear, and he knew that I got my answer. And the minute that I got that answer, sitting in that pew, a weight came off my shoulders that I cannot explain. I had no more worries, no more fears, no more questions to be answered. I totally became 100% set on God and trusting on him. And where I said, I'll touch on that, I'm going to back up on that Saturday when I told my wife, I think I'm going to do chemo, I realized and knew, but I didn't admit it, and I was at fault for this. I wasn't doing it for Pete. I was doing it for you, my wife, my daughter, my son, my grandbaby, my friends. I didn't want to feel like I failed. I didn't want to feel like I didn't give it a shot. I didn't, I did it for the wrong reasons when I said that. And thankfully I only said it to her and not to hundreds and hundreds of people.
Right.
But I explained to her why I said that. And then what happened to me in church really assured me that this is the right thing for Pete to do. Because I did look at it like, if I've got just this isolated case of cancer going on or just a small spot, chemo might be my best option. And maybe I can beat this. And maybe with God's strength and help, we get through it.
Right.
My case is a little bit different, right? And so I realized from the emergency room to day one to what God and I touched lives through my customer base, through finding the alternative medicines, from reading my day on my birthday to listening to this sermon. There's one thing that's been common, and that's been God in my life, and to trust in his leadership towards me and what he's given me and promised me and comforted me.
So good, Pete.
And I have never steered away from that from day one, and I still haven't. And I realized at that point, we're in this together, and we'll fight this together, and we'll believe together, and we will share his word together. And that's kind of what we've done. And I haven't wavered from that once. I've never once been angry that I have this.
Right.
I've never questioned it. I've never had any of that in my life. And I'd be wrong if I'd just say to you that, why shouldn't I feel those things?
Right.
I'm a good person. I've been a good Christian my whole life. I've picked people up and I've done good things in my life, and we all have. But to be able to accept what's going on in your life with what's in front of you and what you face, that this battle and this ending of my book, God is helping me write this final chapter. He's helping me do it Pete's way, be the positive somebody's day, and we're gonna change lives no matter what point. This will continue on and on and on, and so I rest at night very peacefully, honestly, getting to sleep, and to just realize that not everybody gets this.
Yeah.
And I'm so blessed, so humbled, so honored, and I couldn't be more proud of the moment that I'm in to share with my family, my friends. It is just incredible. And I want to thank you for allowing me to share the story, your love, what you two are about, what you do. You know, I kind of like to think that we all have the ability to change somebody's life in some way, in some matter. And if there is a simple message out there, yeah, sure, it's Pete's way and Pete the good in somebody's day. But I hope that this podcast and this testimony that I'm giving in my journey can reach somebody's heart, because my point is, and the reason I really want to do this, if we can change one person's life for the good, then we succeeded. And for anybody out there that's struggling or is having a hard time, understand one thing. It is never too late in life to start a new beginning. Yeah. And if you can live by that and you can accept that, I promise you, God will be there for you.
Yeah.
And he will help you. He will give you the strength that you need every day to walk through whatever your journey is. So, amen.
Praise God. Gotta gather myself.
Just gotta gather myself a little bit here.
Let's all take a moment, okay?
Yeah.
Let's all sniff into the microphone.
That's right.
Can you hear our slobber and our snot?
Yeah.
You know, there's something even more powerful whenever you know that someone is spending, you said 17 weeks, 18 weeks, 16 weeks?
18, 19 weeks.
Reflecting on their entire life. Yeah. I think that's what's always gets me. And on Tuesday, I'd sent these guys a podcast I listened to, and it's a recorded call with someone who is like dying.
Yeah.
In the last words that this guy is sharing with a pastor. And I remember, like, one thing that really stood out to me is he's like, I will suffer like this. Like, it sucks, right? Like, this feels awful. But if this means that I feel this intimacy with you, I'll take it.
I'll take it.
Because he had never experienced this before.
Yeah.
And so I think listening to you, watching you, like, your story is powerful, and what God's doing is powerful. But even more than that, knowing that you've been reflecting on your life, what's important to you. What could you have done different? Like, right? Like all the things that I'm like, I know one day I might look back and be like, oh, I wish I hadn't done this, or, you know, like all that stuff that we always do.
Right.
But now you're really faced at like, this is the reflection point.
Yeah.
And the only thing that you say is give God the glory.
Yeah.
Follow him, trust him,
Believe in him,
surrender to him, believe in him, let him love you. It's not, oh, I guess I shoulda. Oh, I woulda. One thing on Tuesday that you said, and I repeat this to my husband because I was blubbering mess, was he's like, not like you're like, it wasn't supposed to be this way, but when you were talking about your chapter 1, right? You're like, I married my high school sweetheart. Yeah. We've been together forever. Yeah. We had all these dreams, right? Right. A dream of sitting on a beach in Florida. Yeah. A dream of, you know, all this kind of stuff. And you're like, and the thing about you is you don't, that's not who you are anymore. That's the crazy thing is that's why I'm like, I don't think you're Pete anymore. You are Pete, but you're
in a different Pete, Pete.
Yes. Yeah. Like, just becoming more and more like Jesus, right? Yeah. More transformed, so close. And so now it's not, oh, we were supposed to, and now I'm sad for that. Yeah. You're like, this is better.
Yeah. You know, to that point, and I don't want to interrupt you and stop you, but
do it.
But here's what I've done in this journey of mine. I have put cancer in the back seat.
Yeah.
Everything else has come to the forefront for me of what's important in my life. Yeah. And that to me itself has been a blessing because it has shown me so much light and so much promise and so much comfort in what's really important in our lives. And cancer can take a back seat to that any day.
Right.
And
any day.
As you're speaking about it, I'm definitely reminded of the story of Job, which I don't know if you've read through the story of Job, but it's about a man that he's like, I've been a good Christian. I've walked a good walk. Like, you know, like why? Like, why is this kind of happening to me? Not that that's really been your mentality, but it reminds me of Job and how all these things happen to him. And then at the end, he realizes it's not the cure of cancer. It's not the beach house in Florida. It's not for him the livestock. It's not for him the nice. It is literally simply the presence of God. Yep. That's it.
Yep. Truly.
And that's a really hard concept to grasp without suffering. Yeah. And I think you've grasped it in a way that a lot of people don't because of how much suffering you've been through. Yeah. And so you have this message of it's never about that. It's always about the intimacy with Jesus and the presence of him in your life. Yep. For someone to sit here and be able to say, I can put cancer in the back seat because my God is on a throne.
That's true.
What is that?
Yeah.
What is that? That's not worldly.
That's
that's not earthly.
Right.
That's from him. That is only faith that can come from
truth
him.
From him.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So good.
And you know, I also I've reflected a lot in these last few weeks. My father passed away when he was 46 years old of a heart attack. My mother passed away at 64 of cancer. And as I said, you know, I put 1,000 miles a week in a car. I drive a lot. And I found myself thinking, wow, God could have gave me a heart attack. God could have got me in a car accident. But what God has done is he's allowed me to uplift and bring his spirit into so many lives and give me the opportunity to share this in these moments that I have left, or these days that I wake up every morning with a promise and know that I can share this message, and leave no rock unturned for my family, for my friends, just to be able to share my story and my love and my promise of what he's doing in my life. You know, that's pretty big. That's pretty huge that he's allowing me to do this today, allowing me to do this. Because nothing's guaranteed tomorrow in our lives. And I think that's part of why we want to have that connection and we want to have that promise and we want to, live in that world and life of truly knowing in what God does for us. And again, as I said earlier, I hope this somehow, some way can have an effect on somebody and just stop, slow down, think, listen, and hear. And, just praise and just give prayer.
Yeah.
Because it truly can be something that is so humbling and such an awesome experience that I'm walking in. And this journey is just one of so many emotions, but yet so much love and strength and power and promise.
And I'm realizing that I always sit on, because I forget and I remember, is like God doesn't need us to do this stuff.
Right.
And there's so many times where I'm always like, why me, God? I'm not worthy. Why would you choose me? Why do I have to say yes? Why, like, you could do it anyway, like stuff like that, right? And I'm like, but he chooses to use us. And I'm like, and I think the reason why he does that, one, is because God works in cooperation with, or like in partnership, right? Like it's about a partnership. He's not trying to be this person that's like, I'm going to do whatever I want, right?
Yeah.
He's like, let's work in partnership. Let's have fellowship. Let's be in communion together. Let's have intimacy together. Let's be in relationship. Like that's his heart.
Yeah.
And so in that, you're going to be partnering with him to do his will. And I was, after our conversation, when I was talking to my husband, I'm like, man, isn't it so crazy? Like, I never can comprehend or wrap my head around why me, why you, why this person, like, I don't get it. And not being like, because I'm such a sinner, like not that. It's just like, how do you do this, God?
Yeah.
How do you use someone like me?
Yeah.
How do you use something like cancer? How do you use something like, because to me, I'm like, there's someone better you could probably use. And it's not like, I don't know. And I'm like, but then he chooses you and he chooses me and he chooses whoever's listening. And I'm like, but that's how beautiful God is.
Yeah.
Is because he knows the desires of your heart.
Yeah.
He knows how far that you're going to surrender and be willing to be used. And you know what I mean? Like I sit there and think about how good God is because he could do it without us, but he chooses to partner with us, not just so other people can get to know him, but so that you can grow a deeper, more intimate relationship with him. And so I just think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Watching you. And I think that's what we're seeing is a new intimacy, you know.
For sure.
I opened my Bible. By the time this comes out, I'll probably have already posted something online about it. But yesterday I was reading about the Israelites. So where I'm at in the Bible right now, they're still wandering in the wilderness. They made a terrible choice and made like a golden calf and started worshiping it while Moses was up on a mountain.
Yeah.
And so God gets mad, whatever, and sends them on their way. And Moses in this time has been interceding for them and like, God, just give us another chance, give us mercy, you know. And so I get to Exodus 33 and the Lord says to Moses, he says, get going, you and the people. You and the people that you brought up from the land of Egypt. Go up to the land I swore to give Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, which is the promised land. I told them, I will give them this land to your descendants, and I will send an angel before you to drive out all the Canaanites and all these other people. I can't pronounce all those names. Go up to this land that fills with milk and honey, but I will not travel among you anymore.
Yeah.
And so I sat there, I'm like, okay,
let's dissect it.
He's a God of his promise.
Yep.
I promise this. I'm going to give you that land. I'm going to give you milk and honey. I'm going to protect you along the way. I'm going to lead you. I'm going to do all these things for you because I promised that for you.
Right.
But I'm not going to be with you anymore because you guys are so evil, right? You're sinning so much. I can't live among you anymore. And so I sat here and I was like, what is God's promise without his presence?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Their answer, literally the next verse says, when the people heard this, they went into mourning. Because you don't want the promise without his presence. What is milk and honey? What's the promised land without the intimacy of the Father? And the Israelites knew that.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't want it. I don't want comfort. I don't want safety. I don't want anything if that
I don't
means
want the
that.
promise.
Yeah. And then I'm like, because this is the real promise is his presence.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
The real promise is God.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, because again, just thinking about your story is like, I want healing. I want to stay here longer.
Yeah.
But God's like, but look at what you get right now.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I promised to be with you, and you have this deep intimacy with God that not anymore are even thinking about cancer or whatever they're telling you. Because you're like, that doesn't matter anymore because I have you. Right?
I've got his promise. Absolutely. And
so beautiful.
Yeah. It's so true. And so, again, it's humbling. It's on the spirit that has settled in me is one that is beyond comprehension for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the true love that I have in my heart and my belief is something I've never experienced before in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I can close my eyes and I can say, I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
I did it. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I own it. And I'll be forever grateful for that.
Pete. Every time you start talking, start crying. As we're kind of wrapping it up here, I just want to take a minute for the listeners. If you feel this tug to pray for Pete, to pray for his family, please take a minute and just pray over them. And if you also, if this episode or anything that Pete said encouraged you or changed something in your walk, please feel free to send him a message of encouragement to Leah and I, and we will make sure that it gets to Pete. Leah was talking about this the other day, is we don't always get to see the fruit of our testimony. And so I know that this will bear fruit in people's lives. And if it does, I encourage you to share it so that we can send it over to Pete.
Yeah.
But Pete, thank you so much.
Yeah.
No,
thank you so much
thank
for
yous
today.
on my end.
Yeah.
What you two do and what you believe in and what you teach is certainly a calling and a testament to your love for the one and only. And I'm humbled and I'm so appreciative to be here to talk about it. And to your point, hopefully touch somebody's life and to make them realize that there's a lot out there. And I can throw a lot of my stuff in the back seat and bring a lot of stuff to the front. Right?
Yep.
Good.
So good, Pete.
That's good. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for trusting us. And we will be back on in a couple weeks.
We love you guys.
Thank you.
La 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 la.